we're going to move on to a different position, one we've talked so much about with the national team. We got so many questions about the six, the defensive midfield role for the United States women's national team. Amy, she mentioned that we're short on depth at the six, and it's been discussed, but she wants to hear about Sam Coffey, which we've talked about as one to watch, a rookie, but commanding the spot after it as it's not her usual position. And also John Jackson saying, hey, I'm sorry to harp on the number six, but do we need someone to step up, or do we retask one of our other midfielders as an attacking midfielder to drop into that role? We've talked a little bit about Sam Coffey, and we've talked so much about this six, but as of right now, Andi Sullivan is not playing. She's out with a bit of a calf injury. I don't think that'll last too long, but when you look at the midfield for the United States women's national team, Lindsey Herrera, Rose Lavelle, Ashley Sanchez, Andi Sullivan, Christy Mewis, Sam Mewis, what are your thoughts on this six role? Jalen Howe, Sam Coffey. I mean, who's going to fill this role?
Yeah, I mean, I still think Andi Sullivan for sure, but needs to get back and get playing, right? Relatively soon. And to me, it's about just constantly, managing the players when they are getting a lot of games and then going in for the international breaks as well. And it does seem like a little bit of fatigue has set Andi back. So I'll be curious about that. And it sounds like, each week on the injury report, it's questionable. Yeah. So it's not, she's completely out. But that certainly plays into what's going to happen. Yes. I see in the chat here, Sad Dingus. Can Herrera play six? Yeah, we saw her play the six at the Olympics. I think it just depends on who you're playing against, because that player, the reason why, and we've talked about this before, that it's been challenging is because you could be exposed as a six, right? Oh, yeah. You could be exposed as a six with the amount of numbers being thrown forward with our national team, the aggressive approach, and you have to be able to cover the ground, which these players that we've mentioned can. It's just about the defensive positioning and not getting caught in possession, and the ball turns over and then you're exposed in numbers even situations. So that's a whole nother conversation about tactics. But I would put Sam Coffey in there. I think that she deserves a call up, especially with Andi Sullivan being out. I personally like how she plays that position better than Howell. But clearly I'm not Blacko. So yeah.
What is it about Sam Coffey's role in that defensive six that gives her that leg up over the players that are already on the team, or even a player like Jalen Howe?
I like how Sam Coffey, to me, almost seems like a traditional six, even though we've talked about her playing higher up, because she's constantly checking the way that she receives her ball, the way that she's checking over her shoulder. If she gets it from the left side, it's not like, hey, everything's going back to the left side. I'm going to open up my body and play it out to the other side. I don't think we see many players do that, right? And it's tough at this level to come in from a college level game, right? As a rookie, play the way that she's playing with composure, calmness on the ball, and the understanding of players are coming at you from every angle. And to be able to have the ability to also bypass pressure and get herself out of the pressure, I don't think she complicates the game. I think her positioning puts her in good positions. She doesn't have to tackle necessarily. She just steps in and intercepts balls, or she makes the game predictable for the other players around her. So defensively, she doesn't have to be, somebody that's going to come in and just get into hard tackles, right? So I would give her a call up. I would say 100% right now, I'd give her a call up. Given the situation that the team is in, I feel, with not a true player. But I also agree. Lindsey Herrera can certainly play that position. I think we are going to see Andi Sullivan back sooner than later. I very much feel like Howell is in the mix still. And again, this is what soccer is all about, opinion, right? So just because I feel that I like Sam Coffey in the way that she plays the six better than Howell, okay, who cares, right? It's awesome. I care about my own opinion, but
I care, Lori. I care about your opinion. That's why I asked you. That's why I asked you these great questions. And that's so right about Sam Coffey, because a defensive midfielder, a six that plays simple and that you rarely notice as a casual fan watching the game, that's who you want, who can just switch the point of attack, take 1-2 touches, play calmly and really composed out of pressure. And she's not a big hard tackler that like we've seen Julie Ertz be in that role, where it's just a destroyer type mentality. However, if the players around you are aware of that, I think that Sam Coffey could be a really good call up for Vlatko Andonovski. So, hey, Vlatko, maybe if you're listening to this, you never know. We get some NWSL coaches that watch Attacking Third and tune in, but just Lori's 2 cents here. A good opinion base, though. I stand behind it, Lori. I'm with you. I like to hear your opinions on these and number 6.
Yeah, actually, I do want to address this because I like this question. Stephen Cruz Jr. Is Coffey playing better than Howell, or is it the system? I did say that earlier, that, it could be the system, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, but still, regardless, you're playing at this level, and she did not seem phased in playing in the Cascadia rivalry in Portland on Friday night. She has been super consistent since day one. And it's a player that Rhian Wilkinson, their head coach, has said wants to get better. She's watching video. And yes, if you look at the players around her, Sugita and Sinclair in the midfield with her, like, awesome. But she really comes out. So, I mean, regardless of the system, I could care less. She is producing what she needs to. Now, is it a different level? Yeah, we constantly talk about that. It's a different level at the national team. Will she get exposed? Potentially. But then it's just about, that's when it changes with Vlatko, of making sure that everybody understands their roles. Like, is Herrera in there with Coffey at the national team level? Do you pinch back in defensively, right? Like, all these things are a constant conversation. So
looking at the system and the formation tactically that Portland and Rhian Wilkinson are playing with Sam Coffey, playing essentially a 3-5 with 5 in the midfield, having Sinclair, Hina Sugita, and then Sam Coffey as that 6 with wide wing backs Megan Klingenberg and Kuika. When you look at how the U.S. plays traditionally in the past, does Coffey fit into that type of role, say alongside Lindsey Horan and Rose Lavelle in the midfield? How does that compare?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the team is going to evolve. I think as the team is evolving, right? And we'll have to. I mean, that's a constant as the game is changing globally as well. And the competition continues to get better, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of things that, like, I personally think there could be adjustments, right? And players we can get better at in different ways. It did having Julie Ertz in there suit the U.S. team? Absolutely, right? And then also you give up some things with that as well. However, Julie Ertz isn't here. So, like, and, we didn't have Macario consistently playing either. So there's a lot of different moving pieces. This is the first time we're seeing the front line of Sophia Smith and Macario and Malpew, right? So there's like a lot of changes. It's constantly changing. It's just really about understanding what the actual principles are, and really less about, the formation, in my opinion. It's like, okay, we do not want to give up the ball here, which would be a high risk situation. But we're fine with giving it up here as long as we have measures in place to protect us and not getting countered on or whatever, right? But the game is changing that way too, because you have a lot of Cook, who's very good at 1v1 positionings, right? And as a center back. And the modern day center back has to be good at 1v1, because you are going to get caught in transition sometimes, right? Like, we see that all the time in the men's game. And I'm not comparing right now the women's game and the men's game. It's just more about, to me, things are evolving, and they're always evolving. So yes, Coffey can play in that position. Can I ask just one other thing, Lisa, on the comment?
Yeah, of course.
I love the chat names. Astra DeKeko, I think. I don't even know if that's sorry if that's not right. But would a center back be better as a 6? I appreciate that question, because I always said last year when we had the same discussion, because Julie Ertz has been out for a long time, I thought Tierna Davidson would be excellent as a 6. And I thought she should play there last year. But Vlatko was adamant that she was the starting back next to whoever was healthy, whether that's Becky Sauerbrunn at the time, whoever, right? And but I asked for the center back that entire time for it to be Davidson.
Yeah, it would have kept Lindsey Horan higher up the pitch, which suits her so much better.
Yeah.
Than dropping into that role. I love that. I love all this feedback we're getting, and everyone joining us in the chat.